Welcome to Pub Natter, where we record each episode in a different pub in Rutland, the smallest county in England. In each episode, your hosts, Tim and Justin, give a voice to the landlords and landladies and a special guest with a specific area of interest or expertise. We hope you enjoy our chats and it encourages you to go and explore our little county and all it has to offer. Like the motto says, there is much in little. We recently recorded this episode at the Captain Noel Newton in Oakham, Rutland. And we chat with Cayley, the manager, and Jim Irvine, who discovered a 3rd century Roman villa under his father's field in Rutland, which turned out to be one of the most important Roman discoveries in UK. When rain stops play, it's time for some pub natter. So we're in the Captain Noel Newton in Oakham, Rutland, and Justin is here, of course.
Evening.
And we have two guests. We have Cayley, who is the manager of the Captain Noel Newton, and we have Jim Irvine. And we're going to discover who Jim is in a minute. So Cayley, whereabouts are you from originally?
So originally born in South Africa.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, moved over
Whereabouts?
here, Durban, and then moved over here when I was 5 years old, and grew up around Cambridge area, Ely, all that round there.
Oh, I used to live in Ely.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, it's nice.
It
Lots
used
of
to be
pubs.
it used to be an island, didn't it?
It did, yes.
Isle of Ely, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they had like tunnels running from the cathedral to get out the island underneath. So that's the only bit of history I know about Ely.
Have you ever been to Ely Place in London?
No.
I have. I've
it's-
worked there.
Have you?
Yeah, one of my businesses that I work for is in Ely Place.
Wow.
It has the most interesting pub in England
Oh, really?
because obviously when it was built there's a little church there. Was it it's a church, isn't it?
Yeah.
And when it was built there was a pub next door which is now called the Mitre. This is in the 1700s, and that used to kind of flow down to the Thames, but now it's all built up round there.
Yeah.
And you would walk past this pub 100 times and you'll never see it. It's really tucked away down this little alley. But when it was built, it was given to the Diocese of Ely.
All right.
So, and they still own that land. It's part of Cambridgeshire
Oh, really?
today.
Just that little piece.
Yeah. So if people if the old bill were on the run, if people were on the run from the old bill, they could jump into the pub and they
hide.
couldn't be arrested by the London police.
Oh, really?
They had to get somebody from Cambridge to come down to arrest them.
Which took a long time.
Yeah,
in those
those days, yeah.
Well, probably not
Get
as
on
long as it
horse
does
and
now,
cart.
actually.
So yeah, anyway, worth a visit.
Yeah.
It's a great little pub, isn't it?
Yeah, the Old Mitre. It's one of 73 pubs that claims to be the oldest pub in London.
There's quite a few, isn't there? Yeah.
So how did you end up here?
So I was working. I've been working for Wetherspoons for a while, and I moved over to Kings Lynn, and then didn't really like Kings Lynn that much. No offence, Kings Lynn. But then I came back to found out that Wetherspoons in Stamford was hiring for managers, so I moved over, and then eventually came over to Oakham. So been here 6 years now.
Enjoying it?
Yes, I mean it's the weirdest Christmas present I ever had because I got the keys for the pub on the 24th of December. So they were like, here you go, here's a
Wow, you
pub.
didn't open the next day, did you?
Oh, we were open the next day, yes.
Wow.
And all the power cuts and everything else like that.
Well, Christmas Eve is one of our... We normally end up in here for 2 or 3 because my boys come home at Christmas and they meet up with all their Oakham friends.
Everybody.
And so, yeah, it's quite a regular haunt for us on Christmas Eve.
It is.
It is a busy day. It's probably our busiest day.
So, I mean, every time I walk past this place, it's busy.
It is. It's work. Like 6 years of hard work to get it back up to because it has its on and off moments with Oakham. Like when we first got here, it was quiet, and now it just seems to have plateaued, and we seem to be actually. Everybody's coming in. We're enjoying it. We've got good beers on finally, and everything's starting to finally work and good staff. We got retention and stuff like that, so it's been really good. It's been hard work, but it's been good.
But £1.79 a pint. I'm not surprised it's busy.
Well, I'll tell you what.
It's cheaper than milk.
It's cheaper.
Well, cheaper than water in some places.
Yeah.
In fact, that pint is delicious. This is Reverend James that I'm drinking, and it's a really good pint.
Yeah, a lot. We've had a couple of requests for that, so I think that we've had that on. And we've got the Sea Fury on, which has been really popular as well, so constant on.
That's really cool to know that you can request if you've got any special
Yeah.
camera favourites. You could have a word.
Well, we do request a guest, so we order from East West Ales, so we get a list of like 70, 80 ales that we can order from, and then we usually say to our regulars or to anybody really, which ales would you like us to order in, and then we order them in for them. And they sell then, so I don't have to worry about it because I know they're going to sell.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Well, we just remind our listeners that you've got 4 days, haven't you, to get rid of a barrel
Yes.
once it's opened?
Yeah, so once it goes on, 4 days to go through, and then we
So if you tell us what day you have your deliveries, we can work out the best time to come and get cheap beer.
Cheap beer? We've got it cheaper than that.
Cheaper beer.
So basically it's the same. I think in any pub or anyone doing ales, you've usually got about a 3 to 4 day window on them. So
Yeah.
vent, tap, and then on sale for 3 to 4 days. But you can usually sell through them with the 9 gallons. You're definitely not going to keep going. And if you do, then you don't get that beer back in.
So how did you decide on a career in pub management? Is it something you wanted to do from being a small child, or did you sort of stumble into it?
I started earning money. I was just like, when I was a kid, it was all let's go to university and everything like that. And then I started working in. I didn't even realise it was Wetherspoons until a few years ago when I was 18 in the Regal in Cambridge. And then I left the Regal, and went travelling and went all over the world, and then India and stuff like that. And then I came back and I did a couple of ski seasons, and then I came back to Wetherspoons, and I started with Wetherspoons, and then I've been here for 16 years.
Well, did you?
On and off 16 years.
You acted as a instructor, did you? Or,
No,
Oh.
it wasn't that good. I wish I was that good. No, I was working in the chalets and working in hotels and stuff like that. So
whereabouts?
Courchevel, Voltaren area. So I
Very
did
nice.
3 or 4 seasons there. Very expensive.
Yeah.
So, but it was good. Good experience.
And do you miss that size? Oh, now that you're in Oakham, there's not a lot of skiing around here, is there?
I do miss it a lot because obviously it's a different way of life. But it's the same. I love working with. I love the closeness of like country pubs. So I could never work in like London or Manchester or anywhere like that because it would just be too
Anonymous.
much. Yeah. Whereas I like my regulars who come in and I know them, they know me. When I walk in the door, they say hello. If I'm here, like today, walked in and they were all like, "Oh, it's your day off. What are you doing here?" Like it's that type of atmosphere. So, and they all know.
Are you crazy?
Pretty much, I think so. It's like because I was in Stamford for 4 years before, 3 or 4 years before I came here. I still can't walk down Stamford High Street without people going, "Hey, Cayley, how are you doing?" Everything like that. And I'm like, I haven't seen you for like 2 years. But and it's constant. And we go into a pub and they'll be like, "Oh, are you still in Oakham?" And I was like, "I don't remember who you are." But anyway, they know me, but it's still... that's what I do like about this area, is everybody kind of knows who you are and what you're doing.
That's right.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
Good and bad. That's why I've got to be good.
And so most of your clientele is local regulars rather than passing trade?
No, I'd say it's quite a mixture really, because we get a lot of like overseas. So with Oakham College and stuff like that, the Oakham School, we get quite a lot of so in the summer they've got all their football tournaments and stuff like that. So we get people from Germany, America, Ireland, which are the fun times. When Ireland descends, the pub is full, and it's a lot of drinking. But
get your Guinness in.
Yes, a lot of Guinness. We definitely need to know.
Not
when
that we'd
that's
like to perpetuate stereotypes on this show.
No. But they definitely put money in the till.
It's a fact.
It is a fact. I've been to Cheltenham.
But yeah, no, it's good. I mean, we get so many different types of people, so it's nice. And that's one thing I do enjoy about working here, is that it's not the same every day. It's a little bit
So
different.
that's one of the best things. What's the worst thing?
I think sometimes it's so busy with Oakham not having like kind of patterns and doesn't. I think like not having the constant pattern that some days you can be caught short and it just gets absolutely rammed and then you're like, oh, I've just sent everybody home because nobody's in here, and then they'll all turn up at 11 o'clock at night and it's like, with also being the last pub open, like normal pub, not any sort of like nightclub type thing. Everybody comes from their locals and ends up here for the last drink. So all of a sudden you just get overrun with everybody. But
Historically, I've done one day's work behind a bar
oh, really?
a long time ago, and never again.
No?
It was before these days when you had to do mathematics.
Oh, really?
And work it all
On
out.
the tills?
Yeah,
I've done those days.
crikey. And a constant queue. It's hard work, folks, if you're listening and you've not done it.
Yeah, so when I worked in Whittlesea, the pub layout is like a kind of a funnel into the bar, and they used to just queue in the middle, so it was very easy. So you'd be like, who's next? You never had any of this. I was next because there was always a queue. Whereas like I think people, it's not so much now because obviously we have the app order, so because that goes out, it kind of takes away people from the bar. But pre-app, when I remember people at the bar, it used to be 6, 7 deep, and you'd just be like constant, and you'd be standing at the tills, and you just don't move, and it's just constant. None of these staff even know those days. So
I'm a huge fan of the app because being vertically challenged, it's not easy to be spotted in a crowd. So when the pub is absolutely rammed, it is a struggle. So
when they first brought the app out, everybody was just like, "Oh my god, this is the worst thing in the world." But to be fair, it's actually, it does help the service speed up and stuff like that, and it is efficient when it works. Now its kinks are all out. It works, but yeah, it is a good addition, and I think a lot more pubs are doing it now, like the big chains and stuff like that.
Have you had any of those guys on the Facebook group where they go and post to say, "Hey, we're in Weatherspoons in Slough.
Weatherspoons game.
Buy me a drink." Yeah, does that happen in here?
Yes, it does.
Is it?
Quite often. So occasionally we come up and we say, "Are you playing the game?" And they'll be like, "No, we're not playing the game." And I was like, "Well, do you really want 17 kids' milks or 15 fried eggs? Are you wanting me to bring this to your table?" And they'll sit there and they'll say, "No, actually," or we'll go over and we'll have to say like, "There's a little bit too much coming over to your table. I'm going to refund all of this for you because I'm not pouring 28 pints of Guinness to 2 people, because that would be irresponsible drinking." But it is insane sometimes. So the bigger pubs have it a lot worse, but obviously we do have it a few times. But they do like to play the game.
So let's talk about bar etiquette.
Etiquette, yes.
So what's the worst thing you can do when there's a really crowded bar and you're waiting for a drink?
Clicking.
Click your fingers.
Or wave your money. Just,
Cashless society. You can't do that anymore, can you?
I got
Still
told
do
off.
it.
I got told off by the bar lady in the grain store for waving my money.
Really?
Yeah, it's
About 10 years ago, she went for me. And I didn't understand why she went for me, but she was. I think she was busy, and she was a bit stressed. And I think it was just the one
Red
thing
flag
that
to a
pushed her over
bull,
the edge.
yeah.
And I was appalled because I didn't realise it was rude. So
It is. Do you know? It's not so much. I think it's obviously not so much. I think it's the joke behind the like bars and stuff like that, like people clicking or people trying to wave. We know you're waiting. You're at the bar. We're trying as hard as possible to get to you, and then when you've got somebody just like doing this, and you're like, "Okay, I'm getting there. Just give me a." Or you got somebody with like a very long order, and somebody's sitting there tutting, and you're like, "Well, I can't tell them. Oh, sorry, you're not allowed to order anymore because I need to serve people." It's just, just calm down. We will get to you. Patience. I just wish people would learn patience.
So what's the best thing you can do? Just sit there and be nice.
Please and thank
Smile.
yous. Just say please. Just say thank
Are
you.
you pretty good at remembering who's
Yeah.
next?
So I've got a very, because I've been doing it for so long, I can pretty much know who's. I won't get it right 100% of the time. There will be times when I'll get somebody wrong, but 90% of the time. And I also, all my staff are trained to. They should be trained to ask the bar staff who's if they're walking onto the bar, to actually ask the staff who are working who's next, not the customers, because that's when you get I am every 5 seconds. whereas it's quite good.
Do you sort of make eye contact with people that are waiting to acknowledge that you've seen them?
So I always say, I'll be with you in a second, or I'll be with you next.
Because that certainly helps from our side of the bar.
I completely agree.
If you know that you've been noticed,
and you're not getting ignored. So trying to train that into staff as well. It's like, if you can just look up and say, I'll be with you soon, it alleviates a lot of everybody's frustrations. Or I'm just dealing with something, I'll be with you in a second. Just kind of softens the weight. But I've come from a generation where I can serve like 3 people at once. So if I've got my regulars at the bar, I know what they're drinking. So I can start pouring all their drinks while I'm serving another customer.
Sure.
So, but I think that's from years and years and years and years and years of like doing the job. And all my staff still sit there and look at me like, how are you doing this? And it's like, well, I know he's going to have a Guinness. I know he's going to have a Carling. And I know he's going to have a Carlsberg. I might as well start them all. And then I can do something else and give them to them and get them away from the bar so I can serve somebody else.
Is there a strategic position that's quite good?
The question everybody wants to know.
Where do you stand on the bar?
Near the till.
So going back quickly to the one thing that is, don't stand in front of a till drinking. If you want to stand at the bar, move aside from the till so somebody can actually pay. Because the amount of times I'll be like, can you just move up a bit? And then they're like, oh, and I'm like, well, the person wants to pay, so just let them through.
But the thing is, one of the things I really like about a pub, as opposed to a pub that's really a restaurant, is that you can go and sit pretty much anywhere. Mm-hmm. And if you're on your own or you're a bit lonely, the bar's a good place to be because you'll inevitably end up talking to somebody.
100%, yeah.
Whereas there is an establishment in Oakham where you go in and you get taken to a seat, whether you like it or not. And
what, in a pub?
Yeah, it's kind of a pubby sort of restaurant, but it's got a bar, and I don't like that at all. I hate it.
So we're quite on like a Friday and Saturday. We will ask you to move away from the bar if the bar is really full. So like, if we're trying to serve and because quite often we get like the bottleneck where by the games machines and stuff like that, and it just gets like a crowd of people and you can't get through. And you just say, can you either move to the side or move to the edge or move to the drinking tables just until we've cleared the bar. Then you can come back to the bar if you want to.
Sure, yeah.
But I think just people not realising that sometimes if you're just standing there, it means that we can't really get anybody else served. Or we're shouting over the top of you to serve the person behind you. But other than that, I don't really have a problem with anybody standing at the bar. It's quite interesting sometimes listening to their conversations. Not that I do. I do have that eavesdrop moment of the conversations. But it is good. I mean, bar work's interesting. You have to enjoy people and enjoy their ways of doing things. So we have so many characters in this pub that you couldn't live without them. So.
Well, that's a good way to segue into the history of the building, because I know Justin is itching.
No, I wouldn't go that far. As I said earlier, I've done minutes and minutes of research for this, and I've found out very little that isn't actually on the posters and things around the walls of the pub.
All I know is that it was the British Legion before it was this.
Yes, I actually recall it being the British Legion because my father-in-law is a big fan of British Legions. I'm not, because I'm under 87. And I've spent a lot of time in British Legions with my father-in-law, wishing that I was 87. And it wasn't very well advertised. It only had like a little sign on the door. There were no big signs hanging or anything for it. And I managed to go for about 10 years walking past it with him to the grain store without him knowing it was here.
Oh, really?
And then one day I made the mistake of crossing the road too early and he spotted the sign and that was it. And the grain store lost a customer until they shut it down and then it was opened. And he's a big fan of the Wetherspoons, so when we're here, he's here. But I didn't know about the Red Cross connection, but from what I can gather, it may well have had the voluntary aid detachment, as they called them back in the day, for Rutland during and after World War One.
Oh, wow.
And the Captain Noel Newton, what I've discovered, he was actually a major by the time he left the army, and when he became High Sheriff of Rutland.
So they've got the name wrong.
No,
they
haven't, because it was while he was serving as a captain that he was awarded the Military Cross, which is kind of
What they're celebrating.
one of the themes of the pub and everything. And had he been a major at the time that he did his deed of bravery, he wouldn't have got the military cross because it's only available to people up to the rank of captain and below, and to warrant officers. So it's a very small band that are actually eligible to.
Do you know what he did to get it?
I haven't been able to find out.
I couldn't find it.
No,
You should be able to find out. You can find out, in fact.
you can. I got as far as finding him on one of the websites with all of the list every single person and every military honour they've ever had. But you have to hit a paywall, and
right.
I didn't have the time or the inclination to pay the paywall, so I don't know what he did.
Well,
However,
if anybody's listening, please email us and let us know
what Captain Noel Newton did in the First World War to be awarded the military cross.
Does that still apply now?
I didn't look into it deeply, but I think there was a change.
Yeah.
One thing that did change is that it didn't used to be available to people in the RAF because it's awarded for acts of exemplary gallantry during active operations on land.
Ah.
But RAF personnel, I think it was in the 1940s, they decided that they could be awarded the military cross, but only if they were on the ground when they did whatever brave thing it was they did.
That's interesting.
While in the air, there was obviously different awards for RAF personnel.
I'm speculating that the reason for that is that majors in the First World War probably didn't make it to the front line or have an opportunity to be brave.
Yeah, I mean, my education on the First World War is Blackadder, and if you recall, he was Captain Blackadder, it was Captain Darling, and everybody above that rank was behind the lines.
Yeah.
And the captains, what I've found, because it's quite a small band that could get the military cross, there's only about 4 ranks. I think it's Captain, Lieutenant, Second Lieutenant. I think it's the lowest. You know better than me.
Yep.
I think that's the lowest commissioned officer, and then a warrant officer is the highest
Non-commissioned.
NCO, and that was the band that could have this. There were 36,000 military crosses awarded in the First World War, and there were about 260,000 people who served as officers over the course of the 4 years, which would suggest about 1 in 7 officers.
That's a massive percentage.
However, it was only available to that narrow band, and if you take today's ratios of different ranks in the forces, it may have been different then, but if you took today's ratios on those numbers, it was about 56% of the officer class were in that band, which would suggest that about 1 in 4 of the people that were captains, lieutenants, second lieutenants, warrant officers did something sufficiently gallant.
Like turning up.
Well,
Pretty terrifying.
I've actually, you've read my notes, because I said being there at all is a braver thing than I would ever do. And to actually do something sufficiently notable to be awarded this, and 1 in 4 of the people in that rank, just shows you what an extraordinary generation that was. People have ideas about the officer class and all the rest of it, but that I don't know about the ones behind the lines. Maybe they were all like General Melchett, but certainly the ones that were in the trenches leading their small groups of men, 1 in 4 of them was brave enough to stand out amongst the general bravery of being there at all, to be awarded that medal, which is extraordinary, actually extraordinary. So it's a good thing to
Well done, Captain.
celebrate.
So is that as far back as you can go with this building?
All I know is that what it says on the on the walls.
So I do know it was part of it was a big house that he lived in, but the original house was it was called the Limes, and the 2 trees outside the front are the original lime trees, and they surrounded the whole estate, and that's why it was called the Limes. But that's about it.
There is a house still called the Limes in Northgate, and it's a guest house or Airbnb. So whether that's...
I think that's because it went all the way, like the whole estate.
Yeah, so whether it's an original house or whether it's on the site of the original house, I don't know, but certainly the name is still just about being kept alive.
Oh, that's interesting.
So what do you think about the age of the building as it stands today, roughly?
Well, I know it's listed, because I know all these windows are listed.
They're huge, aren't they?
Yes. Rattle when they're windy. But they're all listed.
My guess is late 1800s, something like that, as a reasonable sort of stab. Not that I'm an architect or anything, but that kind of feels about right to look at it.
Because I know that when it was the British Legion, the toilets, where the toilets were, because Elaine, who works for me, says that she spent many a night down the dance floor where the toilets, like the ladies' and men's toilets were, but they changed the toilets. So, but she said that was part of the original building. But I think the back where the conservatory is has been added on. So I don't know because I can't remember.
Why is it that all Wetherspoons pubs have the toilets about 20 minutes walk from the bar?
Or surface area downstairs.
Get your steps in.
Get your steps in. No, I think Cayley's answer was probably correct.
Yeah, it's more surface area
business
down, I think. Yeah, definitely.
So the question I can hear all our listeners, our two listeners, as Justin would say, screaming, would be, is it haunted?
Yes.
Is it? Ooh.
100%.
So do you know you've just got yourself back another 20 customers because anywhere that's haunted brings people
I've
in.
never seen anything or anything, but my staff definitely feel that it's got that weird things happen upstairs.
Go on then. Spill the beans.
So there's a few times, so our lights drop down on a timer, and when we're supposed to be closed or when we're about to close, and you can got an override switch. But there's been times where they've just automatically turned off, and the girls have been on the stairs. There's been nobody there, but then they felt somebody touch them on the back of their thing, and then the lights have come back on, and there's nobody there, thinking that there's going to be somebody behind them. But
So they've actually physically felt somebody touch them on their back.
yeah.
This is turning into an episode of
I know.
Uncanny
I know.
Valley.
All the stalkers in Oakham are highly efficient.
Yes. Quick. And just little things like glasses fall off the bar with being on the bar. Nobody's been walking past and they've just automatically fallen off. But I just think they've been put on the bar badly. So they haven't put on properly. But I've got a few of the girls and boys who think there's definitely someone. They say it's a female, so I don't know.
Why do they say that?
They've always said she, so I'm
Interesting,
assuming
isn't it?
it's a female. But they always say, "Oh, she's back here again" whenever they get a jump or something. So
My wife would know. We did the DNA test, and she's 30% witch.
Oh,
Brilliant. And she does. I've been with her when she's sensed that something's not right, and then we found out 10 minutes later that something awful happened in that place.
Some people have really good intuition, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you've ever been to Mary King's Close
Oh,
in
yeah.
Edinburgh.
Oh, yeah.
And we went into this room, and she walked into the room and she burst into tears.
Really?
For no good reason. And I was like, for God's sake, woman, you're embarrassing me. And then the guide started to tell us the story of what had happened, and there were some children that died in there. And she did it in Grenada as well. We went into the courtyard in Grenada of the old fort, and again she just freaked. And then the guide told us that was where all the people got shot when the Americans invaded in 1984.
Interesting, isn't it? But Mary King's Close, if you get the chance to go down there, it's where Burke and Hare used to go and grab their victims. So Jim's been sat here really patiently. So let's ask
Got
Jim.
a beer, it's okay.
Yeah. So for those people that haven't become aware of Jim Irvine, your 5 minutes of fame was...
More like 15. So my big moment came when I dug a hole in a field, but it wasn't by accident though at all. So it's
Hold that there. So let's rewind. So you were this was your father's field?
yeah. So the family farm, it's owned by my dad and his brother. My dad farms the land, and then obviously we all had COVID. I don't know what you did during COVID. Probably not much.
Drank a lot, eat a lot.
Yeah. Takeaway beers. That was what happened in most pubs. So we got to the point where we had to escape the house, obviously legally. This is recorded, so no one's breaking any laws. And my parents or the grandparents live in Ketton. And I've got children now. They're sort of not grown up, but they're 14 and 11. I think the small one's about 11.
You sure?
Yeah, I just get reminded the day before, so it's okay.
Sign the card.
Indeed. The grandparents are those kind of grandparents. My mum and dad, they'll be listening to this. I'll be in trouble, but they're the ones where you open the door and they walk straight past you because they came to see the grandkids, not to see you. I get into a lot of trouble for that. But so when COVID came, they're in Ketton. We're not very far away, and they were seeing them, a couple of 3 times a week. So missed them quite severely. So we sort of hatched a plan when we were permitted to meet 6 people together in a field to go and play in the river because this was in the summer. So
one of the hottest summers we've
yeah,
had
it was
in a long
amazing.
time.
Oh yeah, so for that, what was it, March the 23rd? I think we all went home from our office, something like that.
My birthday's on the 25th, and I remember it being absolutely sweltering hot, and I was just like, oh my God, this is brilliant. I've got it my birthday off, and it's warm. So happy.
That's rare.
It was,
especially in March.
Yeah.
And then so all these people had the whole spring and all the summer, and so Britain's best garden competition would have been an absolute blinder because everyone's putting stripes on their lawns and
I definitely planted a few plants.
Pulling out the weeds. Yeah, exactly. So we were very happy to go out and meet up with the grandparents, and they were very pleased to see the kids. So off we went, and we travelled over and went into this in one of the fields, which has got a small river by it. And as we went down to this river, we had to go past a bunch of beehives, which were looked after by this beekeeper called Richard I think he's from South Luffenham, which has got some good pubs in it actually.
Yeah.
And we got attacked by a swarm of bees.
From the hive?
Yeah.
That's quite unusual.
It is, but I think we were making an awful racket because the kids were so excited and they were jumping around and screaming. And so there's lots of a kerfuffle, and we ended up running, which I've never seen my mum run before. She ran.
You're going to tell us that the bees forced you into an area that you weren't planning to go?
Almost, yeah, almost. So we pelted past these bees. I got stung. My mum got stung a couple of times, and everyone else made it unscathed to the river. So we played around in the river, but we decided to go back of an alternative route so that we didn't end up going past these bees again. Before this amazing weather in the summer, we had the wettest winter in 40 years, I think, 2019 winter, 2020, which flooded the bottom of the field, which made all the crops not grow. So there's a big patch of soil which went all the way along this river, along the bottom of the field, and the soil was bare, and you could basically see everything on it. So we took this route back along, and as we were walking along, the kids were picking up bits of unusual-looking stones, which turned out not to be stones. And my smallest kid was like, "What's this? What's this?" I was like, "It's a stone." "What's this?" "Doesn't look like a stone." So I put it in my pocket. And off we went, and we ended up going back this route that was quite contrived, and we had to hoist my mother over a barbed wire fence and unceremoniously and skip across the railway line. It was no trains at this time in COVID, so it's all fine and dandy. We made it home. So then I spent the rest of the summer trying to work out what these bits of pot were, and I did loads of research, like looking at maps and looking at aerial photography.
Had you been interested in archaeology before this?
Not really. No. I mean, I'd watched Time Team.
Yeah.
Sunday afternoon, standard fare,
makes you a
isn't
professional in my eyes.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, it's the land of the blind. Just been interested. I mean, I am interested.
Sorry to interrupt you. When you say aerial photography, where did you?
Oh, get your
photos?
phone out, and Tim, and have a look, and you can see on Google. So
right.
It was Google Earth, was it?
Yeah. So they, if you look at it, they update the photographs sort of periodically. And the photograph that I happened to look at the time, which was the one that was present there, showed this crop mark because it was taken at exactly the right time in 2018, I think it was, when the weather conditions were sort of perfect for. It was quite a dry summer, so the crops sort of grew quite slowly. And that meant that anything that was under the ground sort of really more affected the crop more than it would any other time. So I spotted this thing, and I rang my dad and said, "Dad, have you ever noticed any building material come up in this field while you've been working in it over the last 60 years?" And he said, "Well, now you mention it, I might have seen a few big lumps of stone come out." So that was sort of spurred me to think about what might be there. So this crop mark though was obviously some sort of man-made structure. There's no doubt about it. It wasn't.
What's a crop mark?
Well, so it's basically where the soil is dry, the crop matures more quickly, and where the soil's sort of wet, because it might be deeper, it might stay green for longer. So when you look at them, a crop that's the same age might have light bits over the sort of shallow, dry bits,
You can see the pattern.
and green bits where it's darker. So
Sorry, I remember that summer, because it was a very dry summer. There were some articles in the newspapers all over the country where people had taken aerial shots, and the outlines of structures and buildings were apparent that nobody had known they were there. So I guess it's
it's
part of that
exactly.
same thing.
And I think actually I remember seeing something that Historic England were asking Joe Public like us to go and look at these things in their spare time because they've got nothing else to do in COVID, and see what they could spot and record it. So it was pretty phenomenal, to be honest. There was so much stuff and so many crop marks that had been seen that weren't seen before.
So did you suspect there might be something based on what you'd found, or was it a bit of a surprise when you looked at the images and thought, oh?
So across the river, which is a small river, it's only maybe 12, 15 foot wide stream sort of thing. There is an old sort of Victorian farmhouse. So the things I'd found on the other side of the river were bits of broken pot, things that look like a plant pot. I don't know what, oyster shells. So those things I knew that people in the olden days used to eat oysters, and now it's only rich people who eat oysters and people who don't mind food poisoning. So I really wanted to find out where they come from. So that's why I started to look around at this aerial photography, because it's you can look at the ground and you can tell what might have been there before. So it was actually a bit of a surprise to see this crop mark, but equally it was kind of nice to think that these things I was looking at hadn't necessarily come from the Victorian farm across the road. So we went through the summer. I recorded everything I'd done. I basically drew some pictures using PowerPoint and sent them off to the museum and said, look, this is what I found. And then my dad rang me in August and he said, hello, James. Oh, by the way, Jim is my stage name. I go by James if I'm in trouble or with a family. So he said, hello, James, I've cut the wheat. Do you want to come and have a look? So we were desperate to go out again. This was like I'd cut the lawn enough and running out of fuel. So we went back to the field and took a spade. And we took the beach tent and we took the kids and a packed lunch and basically planned for a good day out. And I managed to locate myself to exactly where this crop mark was. And I started digging a trench to sort of transect this particular line with the expectation that I'd find some sort of wall. And I was expecting to find some brick wall like a Victorian building.
How far down are you going?
Well, so initially I dug, my trench was about a spade's depth, so maybe a foot deep, because I figured it was going to be pretty shallow because of this crop mark showing up. And as I dug back, dug a slot about 8 foot long, which didn't take much digging because the ground was sort of easy going. And in the middle of this, there was some sort of powdery white stuff, which was like, you imagine the kind of stuff when you make an apple crumble before you cook it, like crumbly, that sort of thing. Where you, so I came across this and it was really soft, so I dug a bit deeper in that. And at the bottom of this hole, which was about another foot deep, was a bunch of small tiles, about an inch square, looking straight up at me. And it was quite an annoying shock, if I'm honest, because I'd spent most of the summer, like 3 months, researching and learning about this stuff, and I fully expected to find a wall. So I was really quite annoyed, and it made me doubt basically all the stuff I'd done over the summer to try and figure out what I was going to be looking at when I dug this hole. So that was the start of it. Everyone jumped up and looked in the hole and was like, oh, that's interesting. So we carried on, basically, and dug a bit more out. And we kept digging a bit more. So this is me with a spade. My dad went back to the van and got a few more tools he had with him. The kids all stood around looking in the hole, and my mum was there as well. My wife was taking the pictures, so if you see any photographs, it's very likely she took them, and should get credit for those. And after about an hour of digging, which we didn't uncover much ground, but we suddenly went from these sort of biggish tiles of being about an inch by an inch to these much smaller tiles that were very obviously in a pattern that were about a centimetre square each, all butted up nicely together. and they were blue and red and white, and it was very obvious that this was a mosaic of some sort.
We hope you enjoy listening to our pub natter. Next episode, which will be released very soon, we continue our discussion with Cayley and Jim. We do not make any money from these podcasts and present them purely to promote Rutland's watering holes and give a voice to local folk. You, yes, that's you, can help us by leaving a review on your preferred podcast platform. We prefer Apple, as that is where we have most listeners, but are happy to receive any reviews anywhere. Reviews help to increase our audience, which helps to promote Rutland. The theme music is by Tom Arnold. That was a Pub Natter broadcast.